Alright, my name is Katie Aliff. This is my speech for public speaking class. This is my audience. Alright, recently there have been discussions for opening up Virginia water for offshore drilling. And after the events that happened with the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, I think it's safe to say that that is not something we would want off our beaches here in Virginia Beach. Today I'm going to share with you the harmful effects of offshore drilling and what they can pose on the environment, marine life, and the economy, as well as the problems stemmed from the BP oil spill and why we should be focusing on alternate energy sources instead of drilling for oil out in the oceans. Many of us live by the beach, and we're truly thankful and blessed to live by such a natural beauty of the world. We would not want that beauty to be jeopardized or any marine animals to be put in harm's way. Our economy relies heavily on our tourism, and that is to thank for our beautiful beaches. As a person who has lived by the coast here my entire life, I believe we should all feel responsible for the effects we have on the ocean and its inhabitants. Allowing offshore drilling, we're posing a huge threat to our shores, and that is why I would like to share with you why it's so harmful and why offshore drilling should be banned. Virginia Senators Tim Kaine and Mark Warner are posing bills to make offshore drilling legal off the coast of Virginia. However, not many people are aware of the negative impacts this can have on our environment and all the marine life, as well as our economy. Here in Virginia Beach, we have tons of bottlenose dolphins that reside right off our coast. And through offshore drilling, we're putting them at great risk, as well as other marine animals also. The seismic surveys that they use to find the oil oftentimes can alter their ability to migrate and result in mass beaching, as well as all the pollution that gets put into the water. It has a direct effect on these fish and marine mammals. According to an article by Lydia Weiss, the impacts of offshore natural gas drilling on marine life, levels of mercury were 1,000 times higher found in fish around oil drilling rigs. In Virginia, where seafood production is the third largest in the country, oil drilling could greatly affect our commercial fishing. Also, the lighted platforms which are attached to these rigs can attract birds, and when these birds are drawn to this light, they start circling them. It affects their, it causes them to collide together, and they can get exhausted from constantly circling these rigs, which causes them to die of the exhaustion. Increased vessel traffic around these platforms can also provide collision threats for the marine animals. Mostly sea turtles are usually at risk for this, and the direct exposure to the toxins are probably one of the most harmful effects from the oil drilling rigs. Many of the processes involved lead to air pollution, as well as all the fluids that they use to pump into the rigs to get the oil out of the ground, which mostly contain petroleum, which is definitely a toxic. And oil leaks would definitely be one of the most highly hazardous effects of the oil drilling. Shiva Polka stated in the Offshore Drilling in Virginia article that oil leaks would be the most devastating thing to happen from the results of the offshore drilling. Because with Virginia Beach attracting nearly 10% of the state's tourism revenue, we would definitely see an effect if anything was to happen, such as what happened in the Gulf of Mexico with the BP oil spill. The catastrophe that happened in the Gulf of Mexico is a prime example of how harmful oil leaks can be. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill, which was the rig that exploded on April 20th, 2010, claimed 11 lives and was the largest accidental marine oil spill in the history of petroleum. 4.9 million barrels of oil leaked into the Gulf, and for months. It was not sealed until the 19th of September 2010, according to the BP oil spill disaster by numbers article. Thousands of marine wildlife were harmed during the spill. Tar balls continued to wash up for months along the coast, and it had an extreme negative economic impact on the areas surrounding the Gulf of Mexico. Thousands of people were put out of work, thousands of fish were killed. According to the oil spill disaster by numbers, the leak cost the fishing industry $2.5 billion and cost their tourism industry $23 billion. BP ended up having to pay $100 million in lawsuits to the people that were put out of work as a result of the spill. Since then, since the oil spill, Congress has not even passed any reforms to reduce the risk of spills and to improve safety out on those rigs, which is why I believe that we should not even put our coast at risk of that when they haven't even done anything to solve the problems that happened in the Gulf of Mexico. Instead of risking another situation as this, we should put more of an effort to finding alternate energy sources rather than building more offshore oil rigs. Instead of putting our coastal ecosystems in jeopardy, we should be making more efforts to find renewable alternate energy sources. Creating more offshore drilling rigs just solves the short-term problem of needing to obtain fossil fuels. However, finding other energy sources solves the long-term problem. There are other renewable sources that are at our expense, such as wind and solar energy. For instance, Virginia offshore winds produce 3,200 megawatts of electricity. And if we were able to harness that energy through wind farms out on the ocean, we could, promise a clean energy that is stable over the long term. Cars and homes could be switched to run off electric energy, so we're not so reliable on oil for the rest of our life, because that is not going to last us for much longer. Drilling will not solve our energy crisis, and opening all the U.S. coast to drilling would only drop prices by 3 cents per gallon, according to Oceana.org. The U.S. holds 2% of all the world's known resources, yet it uses 25% of the amount of oil. We would not see the benefits of drilling for oil until the year 2030. That is why I feel that offshore drilling is expensive and only harms the lucrative industry of clean beaches and tourism, which brings over $700 billion annually to our economy in the United States. Let's keep our beaches clean and then respect the marine life by attempting to find cleaner ways to power our lives. The reward of offshore drilling is not worth the risk, because as history has shown, it can be extremely harmful for the environment, our oceans, and our marine life. In this day and age, we should have the knowledge to know that alternate forms of energy can be accomplished. Now that you are aware of the negative impacts of offshore drilling can have, you can decide whether you would like to see our beaches and marine life jeopardized in order to maintain a dated way of living. I want you to imagine yourself on the beach and what you envision the beach to look like in your head. Now I want you to look at a picture of a coast that has been contaminated by an oil spill, the water turned black, birds and marine life struggling for survival, completely coated in tar. It is not fair for humans to torment the environment for our own gain. It is time we find cleaner ways to support the energy, cleaner ways of energy to support our lives. And this is the picture I'd like to show everybody. It kind of just, you have a heron right there that's completely covered in tar, a crab covered in tar, and just black tar spills washing up along the beach. I just believe that that's not something you would want to encounter when you went to the beach. So that is my speech. Thank you very much.